Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. The Tesla train continues to chug along. We are now at $463 per share. I mean, this is quite remarkable. If you look at, just the end of October, we were closer to 200, around 217, 218. And in less than 2 months, we have basically doubled. And so this is why I think there's a lot of merit to not overemphasizing timing the market. For the years really where we've been building up our Tesla position, it was mentioned that, hey, maybe this is not the time for Tesla. But the argument for building our position when we did was the fact that these things happen very quickly, and if you miss them, you miss them. And we didn't want to be amongst those who missed the rally. And sure enough, because we were sure it's going to happen, and sure enough, alhamdulillah, we're in position to benefit quite tremendously from it. The Dow Jones was down 0.25%. The Nasdaq is up 1.45%, another all-time high for the Nasdaq. The S&P was up 0.38%. Russell is up 0.61%. We're kind of in wait-and-see mode for Wednesday's FOMC meeting and whether or not the Fed will cut rates. Right now, the CME group probability for a rate cut, 25 basis point rate cut, is around 95%. And so it's kind of a done deal in the market's mind, and perhaps the jobs report and the weakness in it will be added incentive for the rate cut, especially considering the inflation numbers that we got were rather reasonable, basically meeting what we forecasted them to be. Now, Tesla was not the only position that is up tremendously. Bitcoin as well, 106,000 right now. It did reach a high of 107,821. So we're flirting with 110,000. We may be at 120,000 by year end. So very exciting times that we're living in. Dogecoin is at 40 cents. Solana took a quite the trek backwards from above 260 to 217. Now, as it relates to Bitcoin and what's happening there, so one of the reasons for its rally was the hopes growing for the strategic reserve for the United States. And I actually think using Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, and I actually think that this might be more bullish for Bitcoin, may prove to have a greater impact on Bitcoin than the ETFs themselves, because this is going to cause other sovereigns to really look long and hard at adding Bitcoin to their strategic reserve assets. And it's very likely that other countries follow, and no one has deeper pockets than sovereign states. And so this is going to create a continuous bid for Bitcoin coming from parties with very deep pockets. And on this topic, Trump mentioned on Friday, we're going to do something great with crypto because we don't want China or anybody else, not just China, but others are embracing it. And we want to be the head. When asked if he plans to build a crypto reserve similar to oil reserves, Trump said, yeah, I think so. And he had previously advocated for the same thing earlier in the year. If we go to Kalshi, will Trump create a national Bitcoin reserve before January 1st, 2026? The probability now is more likely than not. So it's betting odds assign a 59% probability for a national Bitcoin reserve. And that means that, you know, 40% of the expected added value of the national Bitcoin reserve is probably not priced in yet. And perhaps even more than that, because I don't really think many people understand exactly how bullish this would be for the asset. Now, in other news, Riot Platforms has bought more Bitcoin. So a lot of these Bitcoin miners that have had a tough time mining Bitcoin are now just converting themselves into miniature micro strategies. And so we saw this with Marathon, and now we're seeing it with Riot, where they're kind of throwing in the towel regarding Bitcoin mining, and they're saying, you know what, we're just going to buy Bitcoin. We can, borrow money at a very low rate. We're using convertible notes. The interest rate for Riot is 0.75%, less than 1%, and all they have to do is beat that interest rate in order for it to make sense for them. So it's virtually free money. And so I think that this is going to be another, adding to the snowball of catalysts for Bitcoin. As I mentioned, I think for 2025, we're going to at least be at 200,000 for Bitcoin, maybe even more than that. So, make of that what you will. And also, as it relates to Riot, they're also um, converting into or um, transitioning into focusing on the HPC and AI and using their resources for high performance computing. As I mentioned previously, Bitcoin mining is a really tough business. um, High performance computing, the margins there are much better. So we're seeing this trend in Bitcoin mining. This is good for Bitcoin miners generally because it means that there's less competition on the network for mining as these public Bitcoin miners get distracted with other stuff. And BlackRock has recommended a Bitcoin allocation. And granted, their recommendation is quite modest. So they recommend a 1 to 2% allocation to Bitcoin. I honestly think they're just playing it super safe here. And this is typically how, financial analysts, investment analysts skew. No one wants to lose their job. So they often will be biased towards the really conservative side of things. 1 to 2% is really not going to cut it for most people unless you're dealing with a huge portfolio. I actually think the percentage here is probably a lot higher, probably 10 to 20% for the average investor is a good allocation. And that being said, it's not financial advice. Be sure to do your own due diligence. And as it relates to Tesla and its, constant march upwards, reviews from their most recent 13.2.1 FSD software are trickling in, and I have to say they're quite impressive. So I'm not gonna go through this entire review because it's pretty thorough. But in their closing thoughts, this commentator mentions it's now apparent that driving manually is no longer a necessity when you get into a Tesla equipped with FSD version 13. Even longtime Tesla owners familiar with FSD beta version 10s and 11 might underestimate how capable version 13 has become and how closely it resembles a safe human driver. We're at a stage where we're fine tuning comfort levels and seeing hundreds of miles between disengagements. While my critiques aim to further enhance FSD, I believe this version is ready for a broader release. So we're really close for this full self driving. And we actually had our first in person event for PIF members. By the way, if you're not a PIF member, do become a member. Link to do so is in the description. Leave a like if you enjoy these lives. But I showed how the automated smart summon works, and you can basically just pull your car to wherever you are. So if you're, walking out of a mall, for example, and it's raining and you don't want to walk in the rain, you can use smart summon to actually summon your car to you, and it will drive empty. It will drive through the parking lot and basically park in front of you. So you have not only a personal chauffeur with full self driving, but you also have a personal valet that you can use at any time. And honestly, I really don't know why anyone would buy any other car. Um, I believe this version is ready for broader release, as we mentioned. I hope that Tesla AI team will roll it out to the wider AI for equipped fleet soon. Great work by the Tesla AI team. So, a lot of catalysts lining up for Tesla here. I do expect a strong January report. Maybe we get a pullback at the beginning of January. As I mentioned today to PIF members, I think probably if you're looking to build a position in Tesla, a good way to approach this would be to dollar cost average. But if you already have a position, then my my approach is to basically snipe at opportunities. So when pullbacks happen, to snipe at them and build my position that way. Again, here, not financial advice, but just sharing my thoughts because I'm sure a lot of investors may be experiencing FOMO. They've been caught out of position on this one stock and want to see how they can remedy that situation. All right, guys. So let's go to questions. Salam Chocolate, nice to see you. Salam Abdullah, Wa'il. So you can tell Abdullah from my thanks. It's fun. I feel fine, honestly. Alhamdulillah. It's just a little cold. Alhamdulillah. Um, yeah, Rashad, like long time no see, indeed. Nice to see you in person finally. Yeah, so I mentioned this. So Rashad is asking, it's hard to clear my mind on where to invest with all the greens around. Any advice? Well, I do think that, yeah, and this my approach has evolved over time, but I think that approaching investing like approaching any business opportunity, I think you wait for the perfect pitch and then you swing for the fences. And so, if you don't like the prices now, I wouldn't like force myself to buy. Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Get well soon. Thanks, Abdullah. Vitamin DC. Yeah, alhamdulillah. Why is Solana underperforming lately? Do you see Solana hitting 300? Yeah, I do. Think Solana will hit 300. Some of the price targets that I heard earlier this year from other commenters, I mean, I think you've heard me say it, I think massively sort of over optimistic with regards to Solana. But something like 300 in this cycle, yeah, I think that's definitely doable. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Nice to see you, Dr. Boss. How high will Tesla be projected to go in 2025? Is 1,000 per share probable? I mean, if we stay on this rate, we're going to get to 1,000 in January. But no, all kidding aside, I do think 1,000 is in the cards for Tesla in 2025. I think really the biggest um, the biggest factor will be now. Obviously, I mean, that's what's good about Tesla. You have so many different lines of businesses, and each one of them on their own could be a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. But I think the number one determining factor with regards to how high Tesla goes in 2025 is whether or not they generate their first dollar from robotaxi. If they are able to generate their first dollar from robotaxi, then all of a sudden robotaxi's potential gets included into the Tesla valuation models of all these different yeah, price analysts. And so that will be a really strong inflection point for the company. Uh, yeah, Abdullah, I actually looked at it. It's funny you asked me about Transmedics. I actually like it, but I think it has too much in the way of interest expense, and that's what I found when I looked at it earlier today. So just from a comfort perspective. When is alt season really? Will we see one in 2025? Well, I mean, people have been asking me for alts a lot, and I stuck with our three main positions for the most part. And that is because I think that investors are getting wiser and wiser to crypto and realizing that a lot of this is garbage. And so alt season is not as much of a given as it has been in previous cycles. So really understand what you're investing in, and don't just throw something at the wall and hope it sticks. Enphase is a good company. What's Enphase doing these days? $71. That's that's not bad. I mean, as an opportunity to buy, but for Enphase, it's not in consideration right now until it fixes its interest income, interest expense numbers to bring them within comfort for me from a halal perspective. Since you're a Tesla owner, does Smart Summon work the other way? Can you park itself? No, it cannot. Are miners a good investment in Q1 2025? I think it's a good idea to be taking profits, but without necessarily, closing the position entirely, because these things can change a lot. I understand that, as Bitcoin goes up, the revenue side of their financials improves, but the difficulty of mining also increases with time. And so even though the revenue may be increasing, the gross margin may not be increasing. So something to keep an eye out on. About quantum computing, I don't see it anytime soon being a threat to crypto. Well, it's something to keep an eye out on for sure. And certainly, it doesn't seem like the price the market is assigning for Bitcoin is concerned at all with that, with those prospects. I can't give you like specific, advice about your positions. If you want to schedule a consultation, you can do so. More on our crypto halal reports, inshallah, in the coming days. It's tough to say with regards to CLSK. I mean, I can only tell you what I did, which is to divest. I'm not sure Ethereum is a safer bet than Bitcoin, Anip. Thanks, Chocolate. I appreciate it. The other. Intel is an interesting investment. I'd like to invest in a best of breed, and right now Nvidia is best of breed. But it could be a turnaround story. But I like things that are obvious slam dunks. The first rule of investing is not to lose capital, and so I always try to keep that front and center of my investing strategy. It could be a compelling turnaround story, but I guess I don't know enough about the inner workings of the company to have high enough degree of confidence to say, okay, it's actually going to turn around and be a legitimate competitor to something like Nvidia. Seems like Nvidia is firing on all cylinders, and there's no end in sight to current trends. All right, so thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Leave a like if you enjoyed the live. Become a PIF member if you aren't already. And until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon you all.